What is up, Ravens Flock? Huge shout out for your support for the 410 Sports Talk. James and Glenn are the best in the business. Make sure you go subscribe to their channel. Let's go Ravens. Big trust.
Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of 410 Sports Talk. I'm James Haskell, along with my co-host Glenn Martin, and our faithful producer in the background, of course, running the show. DK is here. Always glad to have him on the show. So today we are here to talk about let's see, Glenn, is this our fifth one? Our fifth
installment. You got it.
That's right. Our fifth installment of the 10-part series of Baltimore Ravens training camp breakdown based on positional groups. Nowhere else are you getting this in-depth coverage for more than a 2-minute spot on TV or on the radio. So we're excited to really get granular and talk about each one of these players and what we think the Ravens will do strategically from a positional group standpoint. Today we are talking about one of the sexiest groups to talk about for a lot of people from the defensive side of the ball, of course, and that is the outside linebacker, right? So I'm excited to get into it, Glenn. So let's talk about it here. But before we do, of course, guys, as always, take a second, hit the subscribe button, give us a like, leave all your comments below. We just passed 8,000. Woo woo!
Yeah, shout out
to all you guys for supporting us and all the hard work that DK and Glenn have put in. Shout out to you guys. I just babbled on here, and they just allowed me to do so. So, all right, Glenn, I'm done babbling. Let's talk about it.
All right, so let's get into the guys who are competing for the job and currently on this roster. And then we'll talk about historically how many members of this group that they typically keep each year. And then we'll kind of go through who we look at as locks and who we look at as competing for some of the back end roster.
Maybe a wild card in there somewhere.
Maybe. All right, so first and foremost, you got Vince Beagle, recently signed, brought over, a veteran, most recently played. I think he may have played his whole career with the Miami Dolphins, but I'm not sure about that last part. Tyus Bowser, familiar face. Dalen Hayes, going into a big-time important second year for him. Recent signing, also Stephen Means, outside linebacker. I think he was with the Atlanta Falcons most recently. Veteran guy brought into the group. Jeremiah Moon, outside linebacker. Let's see, David Ajabo, rookie. Excited to get him back on the field, but we all know that he is still rehabbing the injury he suffered at his pro day at Michigan. Odafe Owe, talk about a second-year player, big-time second-year player. Got big expectations for him. And then finally, rounding out the group, rookie Chuck Wiley. Depends on where you look. He's Chuck on some pages. He's Charles on other pages. But rookie nonetheless. So, yeah, that's the group. Currently 8 guys in the outside linebacker room, Jimbo. What's your initial reaction when I read you those names? What's going through your mind?
Yeah, so 2 things. One, I don't know a ton of these guys. To be honest with you, I could probably pass them down the street and walk right past them. So that certainly is going through my mind, right? Like, haven't seen these guys a ton. And I think that's fair to admit. I think anyone would be fibbing if they knew all these guys.
Yeah.
Like actually, has watched game tape, right? Like not just. So the other one is when you look at the depth chart, an entire, like aside from Odafe, the first 2 people have Q's next to their names. So I say all that to say the alarms in my head are going off. And of course, rest in peace, Jalen Ferguson. That whole scenario has increased the criticality of this of the need to solidify a depth chart, if you will, within this position. So those are things that are going off to me. I don't really know these guys, and a lot of them are hurt.
Yeah, what about you? Yeah, I mean, you look at the returning guys from last year, and the leading sack getters from last year. Tyus Bowser being number 1 with 7 sacks. Who knows when he's going to be ready. I mean, he tore his Achilles in the final game of the season last year, so that's usually, what do they say, a 6-month injury, Jimbo? But
6 to 9.
Yeah, so 9 months. I mean, we're right up against it when it comes to the start of the season. So, who knows what type of shape Tyus will be in? Because it's a lower body injury, so he's got to rebuild the strength he's going to lose from all the time he's going to be immobile after surgery. So who knows what shape Tyus Bowser will be in the initial part. He was the leading sack getter last year. He's the leader of the group this year. And then Odafe Owe, going into a big time second year, but he's going to get a lot of the attention of the defense. And he is also rehabbing a shoulder injury. So, man, this is so that's just an interesting group when you got 8 guys and really only 2 of them have done much at this level. That's kind of a scary proposition, Jimbo.
Right. It's interesting. It's also it's enticing in that like your eyes will be on it more, right? Like it's not a sure thing. But also it's more nerve-wracking because if a few of these guys flame out, then what are you left with, right? Like there's the Justin Houstons of the world, there's the JPPs of the world. There's these guys that are sitting out there on the back 9 and you're like, okay, how long can we keep depending on these types of players to come in and have a meaningful role and actually have an impact on this defense when it comes to the edge rusher position. But before we talk specifically about these guys, these guys, and obviously the show is talking about the depth and our predictions for how it will break down. How do you see McDonald using? Do I keep saying that wrong?
No,
No,
McDonald's
it's
right.
McDonald. Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you see him using deploying these guys in comparison to Wink? Like, do you see anything drastic, noticeable by the average fan changing?
That's the big question. I certainly hope to see a couple of things, Jimbo. I'm not a big fan, and I get that part of it adds to some of the deception. I'm not a biggest fan of seeing Odafe Owe dropping into coverage on passing situations. So I
knew
want to
you were going to
see.
say that.
Yeah, I mean, on third down, on guaranteed passing situations, I want to see your best pass rushers rushing the passer. And I get that, you want to have that deception and not know who's coming and who's dropping and all that, and that's fine. But to me, I'd rather kind of I'll take being predictable in that regard and knowing that the Odafe Owe and eventually David Ajabo and hopefully sooner than later Tyus Bowser are going after the quarterback, because we know those are the best 3 guys, at least that have done it. And we're hopeful that Dalen Hayes turns into a player and all that. But yeah, that's one big thing. And then also, as far as just using those guys, I think the coverage thing is the big one for me. And then I want to see how these guys develop some moves, some pass rush moves. I don't want to just see one move and then you stand there. I want to see, counters being developed. I want to see just a more developed pass rush repertoire from these guys, and hopefully,
Ooh, look at you, repertoire.
you see that. I hope that the combination of Mike McDonald and some of the position coaches he brought in from Michigan, who seemed to unlock the pass rush at Michigan, getting 2 guys drafted pretty high, one of which Ajabo slid only because of the injury, would have had 2 top 15 pass rushers get drafted in this draft if they don't get hurt. So they obviously got something going there, and let's hope they can kind of recreate that here.
Yeah, I'm hopeful of that as well, and it will be really interesting to see how that turns out. Now, let's give some historical context here around what we think that the number will be. And before you, I also have to agree with you. I'm done with seeing Ajabo drop backpedaling on third down.
Odafe? Yeah.
Or Odafe. I don't want to see Ajabo doing it either.
No,
I want to see hands in the dirt, ears pinned back, and ready to go. Like, I don't want to see any of this like, oh, where am I? Like, no, why would you? And that's craziness to me.
Drives me crazy.
So go ahead.
Yeah, let's get into how many they kept in the past. So last year, as of October 1st of last year of 2021, at the outside linebacker position, they had 5 guys listed on their depth chart. Okay. And then if I go back even further, I go back a year before, I go October 1st of 2020. Let's see. They had 4 guys listed at the outside linebacker position, went a little deeper and heavier on the defensive line that year and inside linebacker. So it looks like it could be a 4 to 5, but I don't know if 6 is too many. It's too many in the last couple years, but maybe they go light here. So 8 guys currently on the roster. And I think that's the big key. It's 8 guys currently on the roster, but that doesn't mean that it's just these 8 guys competing for those spots, right, Jimbo, because they got a little bit of a wild card up their sleeve, right? I mean, they got Justin Houston signed to this exclusive rights. I can't remember the exact name of it, but basically it gives them the right of first refusal. So if anybody tries to sign him, they have the opportunity to match the offer. And if they choose not to match the offer, it can be entered into the upcoming season's compensatory pick formula. So I think there's a very good chance that there's another guy in this room, and it's really a 9-man competition with Justin Houston being the 9th guy.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I can't say I disagree. I might say that I feel less confident that Justin Houston is the guy. Not that there's a ton of guys out there. I don't know. To me, it just didn't seem like, I know he loved it here and there was a lot of good vibes and stuff, but he wasn't the most impactful guy. Now, at the same time, while I say that, like, how much impact can I really ask for a guy that, he is on the back 9 and he's a training camp, there's not much left on the tires and how much, not that he's not motivated. I know he still wants to get a ring and stuff like that, but guys that are on the market right now generally are not, world movers.
Not Pro Bowlers.
Right. So,
but he was 3rd in our team in sacks last year.
Yeah, which isn't saying too much.
No, it's not.
It isn't saying too much.
But he was 3rd. He was twice. He had more than double what 4th had.
Oh, you're great at framing, Glenn. You're great at framing. You got to do what you got to do. But this is the other thing, too. People seem hopeful that Tyus Bowser's coming back and Ajabo. I don't see either of them starting the season. I don't think John or the last thing they want to do is push it. I don't see either of them starting the season, and I don't know how soon we see them back. And on top of that, I don't know how soon we see them making an impact based on the injury and the position they play. I know they're going to be extremely cautious with these guys and move forward. So I'm going to go. I think that 5 is the number.
Okay.
Maybe I'm not as confident as you that Justin Houston is the guy, but I tend to agree that there is another guy out there that a lot of people, maybe not know, may not be as much of a household name as a Justin Houston. But I think we have to go light here because we've invested so much in the secondary.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing I'm going to mention is I think that as much as Odafe Owe is going to make a jump this year, I wholeheartedly believe that. We've been beating the drum for Dalen Hayes, and if he can stay healthy, I think this kid is going to have an extremely impactful season, a lot more than what people are suggesting or guessing that he will have. I'm really looking forward to seeing what this kid can do because, man, he showed. You talked about those pass moves, Glenn, like the combinations and different moves to beat the offensive lineman in front of him. He showed a wider variety of those last year before he had the injuries than a lot of the other young guys, where he's much more mature when it comes to his technique than some of these other guys. So I'm excited to see him put it together.
Yeah, no doubt. He's getting a ton of run. He's been standing out in OTAs. And he's going to continue to get a ton of run with the guys still fighting back from injury. And they're going to throw everything at. My only thing with him is, can he stay healthy? Because we've seen him struggle to do so in his only year here as a Raven. His rookie year, he missed the majority of it with little injuries along the way. And so hopefully, for his sake and for the defense's sake, that he can put it together and stay healthy, because this is an important camp for him, but not just him. I look at some of the other guys on this list, and man, I think this is kind of an important one. I'm kind of lost between when they bring a guy like
Beagle.
Yeah, when they bring a guy like Beagle in, and then also bring a guy Steven Means in, they're kind of similar in that they're both veterans and they're quality depth guys, but not frontline starters. I'm trying to figure out how they're going to fit all these guys on the team. And that might mean that Justin Houston isn't on his way back to Baltimore, because I kind of just pencil him in, assuming that he'll be back during training camp. Like he joined the team last year, right as training camp was starting, missed all the other off-season programs. But I don't know how, unless there's no way they're keeping 7. So when I go down the list as far as guarantees, let me just start jumping into this, Jimbo, because Tyus Bowser's obviously not going anywhere. But like you said, will he be on the PUP list to start the season? That kind of remains to be seen on how he's recovering. And I'm sure we'll get some news and stuff as training camp gets closer. Odafe Owe, obviously he's going to be a big time contributor, a guy that they're going to rely on a ton. Dalen Hayes also. So I look at those 3 guys as stone cold locks to make this team. But with Ajabo, if he starts the season on the PUP list, Jimbo, that creates another spot for somebody else. Do you think that there's any chance Ajabo isn't starting on that PUP list?
No.
No chance.
No chance.
Yeah, so that's what 6 games he's missing.
Yeah.
So then you got a little bit of you got some flexibility. So you might be able to say Means is your 4th guy, and Beagle, because of the fact that he plays inside and out, could be
Right.
your 5th guy. But then that leaves no space for Justin Houston unless you're keeping 6, and that it's kind of mean of me to just overlook some of these other guys on this team like Chuck Wiley and Diego Fago. I mean, is that? Oh no, I guess he's more of an inside guy. Yeah, he's an
Yeah,
inside
that's
guy.
right. But I think you're on, Glenn, is it might be tough to overlook some of those guys. I think you're spot on. But so what I'll say is I think both of them end up on PUP. What's your opinion on that? Are you as Bowser and Ajabo? Are you as convinced of that as I am? Or do you think Bowser has a chance?
Bowser's got a shot, I think, because his was a little bit earlier than Ajabo.
Now, how you feel about Ajabo? You feel like that's
no chance.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
No chance.
So I mean, but you do have some flexibility there, and like I said, if Bowser ends up there, then obviously you have a lot of flexibility. But the other thing too, am I mistaken here? And JPP hasn't signed anywhere, right?
That's a good point. I can't believe I almost
Is he
forgot
this year's
JPP.
Justin Houston?
Could be. That's a good point.
You know what I mean? Where they could have a deal in place, verbally at the very least, a handshake deal, and just not want to bring him into training camp and things like that. That's a possibility, right?
Who would you like more?
JPP.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen him play in bigger moments more recently, and if I'm not mistaken, actually, don't quiz me on this, but I think he's younger.
Pierre-Paul?
Justin Houston.
He is younger.
Is he younger? Not by much though, right?
Not by a lot. He's 33. So what is and Houston? Let's see. Justin Houston is as my
33. They're the same age.
Same age. Okay.
Justin Houston just
looks older. 121. Yeah. Let's see. 120. Wow. By 20 days. Jason Pierre-Paul is a New Year's Day baby. January 1.
Okay.
That's pretty interesting. But he only had 2.5 sacks last year, which is 2 less, Jimbo, 2 less than Justin Houston had in Baltimore.
Good point. I don't know why. Maybe it's because it's the optimism of having a guy in that hasn't been here before that has me more interested.
Well, he had 9.5 the year before, 8.5 the year before that, and 12.5 the year before that. So
he also seems to be on teams that always win and go to the Super Bowl.
He does. He's got some good luck on who he chooses to sign with.
Yeah, so he knows what he's doing. But so do you think it ends up ultimately being 5, or it sounds like you were kind of tossing out the idea of it potentially being 6?
No, I think it's got to be 5 or 4. I think it could be 4, Jimbo. And the reason I think it could be 4 is this defensive line room is ridiculously talented. And they always say they keep the best player available. Well, it's going to be really, I mean, we're going to get into that defensive line room soon with another video. But and you start looking at the names on that front, and they might have to cut a far better D lineman and just to squeeze in an inferior outside linebacker. Just I don't know if they want to do that. So they might just say, look, we'll go heavy with some big boys, and we'll find creative ways to get to the quarterback. We'll see how that plays out because, man, that's a big group to me. I think the outside linebacker group is an important group to the success of McDonald's defense. If there's anything we can kind of glean from what he did in Michigan, that pass rush is very important. So maybe that just means Owe and Hayes go off early, and then they get contributions from Ajabo and Bowser later on in the season. That could be the case. But for me, I think it's Bowser, Owe, Hayes, Ajabo as a pup player, so he won't count in the initial part of the season. And then I think it's Steven Means. Man, my goodness. And I guess I'm going to say right now Justin Houston, but I wouldn't be shocked at all if JPP is this year's Justin Houston.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's my glaring difference between mine and yours. Would be for some reason I feel like based on his, like you said, I mean, he's had some really recent production in Justin Pierre-Paul, and so I think that he ends up signing here with the Baltimore Ravens.
Well, that would I would be excited about that because it's like you said.
I just called him Justin Pierre-Paul.
That's okay. That's okay. I knew
We
what you meant.
combined them together. That's what we did.
Yeah. Now, the other name, there is one other name. There, Montez Sweat from the Commanders has been a guy that people have been saying, at least in the comments, that the Ravens should kick the tires on him and see if there's any way that the Commanders would be willing to give him. I don't think at this point in his
Yeah.
career they're ready to move him. When I think the strength of that defense is their front seven, and why weaken that when he's still got some time left under
if you got
contract.
control of that,
Yeah.
you ride that thing into the ground, right? Like all those guys are just ridiculous, and
Mhm.
yeah, the talent there. Why would I would it would take a lot for me to
I don't see them giving up what it
force
takes.
it, to voluntarily weaken that.
Right.
Yeah, I
Absolutely.
agree with you
So,
100%.
but let us know what you guys think. Maybe there's some names we're missing. I mean, look,
Yeah.
I feel like we were kind of a little bit disrespectful to some of these names on this list, Jimbo. We didn't give a lot of talk to Jeremiah Moon and his chances of sneaking on the back end of this roster. I mean, is that unfair of us? Should we talk a little bit
No, I
more
mean, I
of
think
Chuck
that
Wiley?
I think that they end up making an impression and getting on the practice squad, and that's okay. They're young
Maybe.
guys.
But yeah. Look, there's limited space on that practice squad too, Jimbo.
That's true. I mean, they did keep the expansion of it, so
Yeah, that's good.
give them a little bit higher probability. But yeah, I think that's what it ends up being. At least that's
Okay.
what they should be working towards. It's a step in the right direction. It's like a redshirt year, you know?
There we go. Don't give up, boys. Keep doing
Yeah,
your
absolutely.
thing. Keep chasing
That's
your
right.
dream. You know what I mean? You
That's
never
right,
know,
dude.
when you'll break through. But let us know what you guys think. Are you concerned with the lack of? I mean, you talk about certainly a lack of depth, Jimbo, but there's even a lack at the top when you consider all the injuries. I mean, I'm starting to get a little nervous about this group. Or
Tell me
are
about it.
you, yeah, or are you excited about and you kind of looking ahead of the combination of Ajabo and Owe and Bowser and Dalen Hayes and getting hype about this group and thinking maybe there's another name that we're missing that they could be adding, whether it's via trade or a late casualty that you see on the horizon. Let us know what you think in the comments below, and we'll talk soon.
See ya.